Hello, everybody, and welcome to AI People. Today, we're talking to Quentin Sinig, who is a go-to-market leader at Pruna AI, which is an inference optimization framework. Greetings, Quentin.
Hi, Ben, and hi, all.
So we always kick things off by asking our guests to make a few predictions about the AI industry as a whole. Like, they're fairly sort of broad kind of questions, but I think it's just interesting to get the takes of lots of different leaders across the industry. So first one is thinking about how humans and AI will collaborate in work. So thinking about where you see the industry being in 5 years' time, and then maybe in 15 years' time.
Wow, that's a very big question, because if you actually ask me when this industry will be 6 months, I would actually tell I have no idea.
Yeah,
So 5 years and
so
15
fast,
years,
yeah.
it's going fast. It's going very, very fast. So maybe the timeline might be shorter. Um, but I guess my 2 cents, and again, it's a very broad idea, but my 2 cents is we are getting I mean, the AI world will be more closer to the SaaS world, if I can say, in the way that there will be a wave of consolidation, because now every day there is a new player and new startups are building out a new tool or new product, etc. And we will see a lot of failures and also a lot of consolidation coming from large tech who will do acquire, and it already has started. And I guess for 2 reasons. The first one will be first to accelerate the time to market on specific verticals. That could be reason number one. And the reason number two is to build for their own internal inference engines. Yeah. That will be two main reasons. And afterwards, that's why we're going to be more of a like SaaS-like market of the AI, because there will be more maturity on the ground, and then you will see people like going into like full SaaS, platform as a service, etc., etc. I think you will find the same definition, or you will have like inference as a service, model as a service. It already has started, but it's super early. And right now, what is blurry that you don't have a common agreement definition on the different actors of an AI value chain. That really changed a lot depending on if you're speaking to founders, if you're speaking to VCs, if you are speaking to large tech companies. And when we'll get that maturity, and to me, it's more like 18 to 12, 24 months rather than 5 years. Mm-hmm. That's where I guess in the direction we are going to.
Yeah, and I can just to chip in on my side, like I've spoken to I've spoken to 2 people today, and then seen a third one where they're kind of AI startups that have been acquired or in the process of being acquired. So yeah, just you saying that today, like really chimes in on the phone calls I've been having. So the next one is the AGI question. You can kind of put your own definition on that. Do you think it's something that we're close to, or we're still kind of 20, 30 years away?
AGI is, to me, super vague, but AGI to me is closer to philosophy rather than that something purely technical or as a product. Because actually the first time the word actually appeared, it was in a philosophy world, not literally, like in a thesis, like for AI applied research, etc.
Yeah.
So to me, we are far from that, and because we already have reasoning capacities across the different AI models we have today, and the capacity to then take actions, and how you fall down like automatically actions, and how to create all these general systems is actually already in movement with the agentic waves. Because if we think of AGI is the capacity to perform better than a human on any task. Could be mathematics, could be writing, could be coding, could be whatsoever. So I guess to me it's just like agile was a philosophy back in the days, and then you have methodologies behind. To me, we are going into the same direction, and think of it that way. we are at the step where you have very, very, very large models that empowers the powerhouse to create these AGI things.
Hmm.
Yet he's not ready to be, and far from that, to be like democratized and used by anybody, like any company from small one to large one. Even large one are very actually caring about like frugal AI and the cost behind it. Uh, but this will pave the way to have a lot of very small model, but then distilled from the larger one, and actually we can perform very specific tasks. And all this agentic style to actually call on and one agent on a specific task could actually lead to what we call AGI, in the sense that you could have an army of agents that actually, if you combine all together, it
Yeah.
surpasses the human capacity everywhere. But again, the way to build that, to industrialize that into something like very bigger, you will find really different words. But 20, 30 years, again, if you think of 20, 30 years before of
Yeah.
today, there was like the foundations of many different bricks. Even in the 80s, the first papers of Yann Lequin, are dating from this period. So there will be like new waves of AI revolution, just like we faced IoT for like IoT 4, IoT 3, and different generations and all that. We'll come to that. Would it be AI on another buzzword? I don't know. But to me, for now, it's mostly buzzword. And more reflecting to way to think and a philosophy.
Yeah, okay. And how do you think about AI reshaping the global economy? Do you see like more wealth inequality, or do you think it's going to narrow the gaps in opportunity for people?
Well, depends. Depends really which side of the coin do you have when you flip it. If you ask me personally, um, I do think it will bring more value than destroy in the end, especially when it comes to employment. Yet, I have to be frankly honest, I'm a bit worried about entry-level jobs. I'm a father myself, I have a young daughter. Will she find the right job easily in 20 years from now when she exits school? I have no idea. And in that sense, as a father, again, a responsible one and a caring one, I somehow fear that she could, if we stay in the current purely economy, like in the current economy, yes, it might seem like overwhelming and dangerous. But actually, we already are shaping and modifying um, education.
Hmm.
I'm French personally, by the way, and we have one of the greatest campus in the world to train engineers. And I think if governments also take this into consideration very early to adapt, not just using it, but like training, educating with it, just like people were afraid when web development came out, when cloud technologies came out. I think in the end we'll see something positive if we have the right leaders and we do the right things.
Yeah, okay. So before we jump into talking about Pruna, do you just want to kick things off by telling us about yourself, like your background growing up, like what got you into the kind of startup world initially? Because obviously you've done that the kind of founding role like several times. So kind of interesting, what you've learned kind of doing that in different industries.
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. So my background is I started in the consulting world, and I went from very generalist players to more specialized player. And I quickly moved from AE roles to pre-sales roles, even though I do have like a business background, not a computer science background, which is quite
Yeah.
unusual for such an architect. And that's exactly why and how I succeed to enter the startup world, because my very first founder, who was Pierre Burgi, the CEO of Strapi, was actually looking for a founding AE who had a technical background and interest, because they're addressing developers' personas, and that's why my profile was interesting for him. And since then, I always did this with 0 to first million of annual recurring revenue in various startups. So Strapi was the first one. Then I tried a full solution architect role, but it was too narrow in terms of responsibilities. So I decided to go back into this 260 role. And I did it at Kestra, which is an open source orchestration tool for data platforms. And then today I'm in Pruna AI, again, always in a similar role. But I guess today what is different is that the timeline from 0 to 1 million is way more shorter than what I used to do before. And also the way VC works back in 2020 or today is also way more different. The funding rounds are really different, the way you operate and navigate through them. So these two components make me think that my current role will be way more different in the future. And let's see, hopefully we'll at least get to 10, 15 million way more quicker than in the past.
Yeah. Okay, great stuff. So do you want to kick things off talking about Pruna then? So, I mean, imagine you're talking to someone who doesn't come from a technical background. Like, how do you explain what Pruna does?
Yeah, with pleasure. So what do we do? It's very simple. We make AI models faster, smaller, and cheaper and greener. That is as simple as that. Now, let's say you're a company and you want to build like a cheap ChatGPT or Copilot-like assistants trained on your own data and hosted internally. This is way more and more popular use case.
Yeah.
So to drive AI adoption with your end users, nowadays you need apps and products that are fast, because if it doesn't perform well, like ChatGPT, people won't use it, and companies will face shadow AI. And then once you get adoption, you want the confidence to scale without your infrastructure cost exploding. And believe me, that's a real concern. And by the way, if you can guide your users towards models that consume less carbon energy, well, that's even better for the planet. So that's exactly what Pruna is about. And at the core, we are number one European researchers in what we call AI efficiency and reliable AI. That's exactly our precise scope. And our framework, what we built, our framework helps deliver AI teams to deliver efficient models in days and on months. And just like security today isn't optional, we really think that AI, like efficiency in AI, should be the default too. That's how I would frame what we do.
Yeah, the model that you're using. And so what kind of companies, what kind of teams do you see as being kind of a great fit for Pruna?
So the best fit today for us are cloud and inference providers. So we do work directly with the people who are building the platform and who actually are themselves as AI appliers as customers. So you can see today, you can see Pruna working within Replicate. You can see Pruna working within Cerebrium and Salad, for example, Model, RunPod. These are the companies we are primarily focusing on because we have a one-to-many strategy. If we target one of these accounts, many people will benefit from it. And these people are what we call the AI appliers. So people who are building AI product or services using models available through an endpoint, because it's way more it's really easy to build application like that. And then these are the secondary round of people we are targeting.
And obviously there are lots of tools out there that kind of do one thing, like quantization, pruning, like graph compilers. Like you've kind of taken the decision to kind of bring those all together What was the kind of market need that you saw to bring all of those tools together into one platform?
This is exactly the founding story of Pruna. One of our founders, Bertrand, um, actually, he worked at Twitter. It was still named Twitter back in the days. Stanford,
We all call it
BMW.
Twitter.
Yeah, still, right?
Yeah.
And as an ML research engineer, he always has the same pain point. When he needed to work on the project, he needed to re-implement one by one all the research papers that's actually performed these optimization techniques one by one. And he thought, what if I could have a single package, a single toolkit that combines them all into one place? So first we group them and then we combine them together to get the most out of it. This is exactly like the why why the company was built in the first place. And then you can make this accessible, a great AI accessible to a large range of people and companies. So yeah, that's it.
So do you see Pruna as a product or a platform, or is it just like a kind of a new category, like doing a totally different thing?
No, it's not new. It's a framework. It's a dev tool. It's an SDK. You can say it's an API. That falls under this category. I do not consider ourselves as a platform because we do not have a UI. We do not have any cloud services behind it, like to run things on our own premises for the sake of our client. That's something we don't do, and we won't go into that direction, at least for now. And our goal is really to integrate with different components of our ecosystem. So just like you have other open source tools in the data world or in the dev world, we are a dev tool made for ML engineers.
And you've gone with a kind of an open source first, usage-based kind of pro model. Like, how have you seen that work? And, have there been any elements that have been harder than you perhaps expected?
Honestly, not that much. So we always wanted, at least the founders always wanted to go open source. When I joined them, it wasn't the case yet. And we rolled out things progressively. So first we did kind of a freemium package at first, so people could actually test it without any hard limitation on the usage. And then afterwards, we finally came to open source because we needed at least to create a product that delivers enough value for the community, but also comes with enough sellable from day one to create a clear value differentiation between like a pro version and an open source version, so we can still go into like the DNA and the value that goes with open source, but still get early on monetization. And that was really the key to do things on the right timeline. And why open source is basically for us, it's a matter of so first, we are researchers at the core, and the ML community is important. And since we do operate with public papers, it was normal for us to do that and not to like steal any IP coming from the public domain. That would be like, for us, we really don't want to go that way. That would be very shady. But also, we know it will ease how we could drive the brand and the trust on the market, that is actually pretty new and going very, very fast. And we are really convinced that open source is still like for the win. There is also always this two sides of the coins, but we are open source advocates.
And are you kind of purely kind of going with that PLG motion, or do you kind of combine that with more of an enterprise kind of top-down sales motion?
So we started with a founder sales-led motion at first, because to create PLG, we needed to have a minimum of brand and awareness, and that took time. We are starting to have some traction on the PLG side, but it's still pretty early. And for now, we combine both the sales-led motion with a PLG. We'll see tomorrow. One thing we'd also explore is the partnership-led motion, mostly with AWS currently, not the consulting firm I have a very opinionated opinion about that. But yeah, PLG plus sales mostly by the founders. I mean, we are 15 packs company, so it's still very early. And you need to, by the way, you will never know. You need to try everything from day one, and then
Yeah.
you will see what works, right? So yeah, we're missing things.
And you mentioned kind of earlier on, like the green aspect of obviously working with smaller models and making those more efficient. Like when you're talking to the kind of builders, how high on their priority list is like that kind of moral concern, if you like? Is that something that they're thinking about, or are, the other kind of cost, speed, accuracy, are they kind of more important to them?
So the first thing is always to say green will be logical consequences of reducing of size and speed. So there will always be benefits coming up. Then I'd say the motivation is really on the small size is usually very personal. So you will have people who personally believe in that. Lucky for us, they are exact. So yeah, that will ease the conversation. The thing with, we also caught a lot of attention from like head of sustainability from very large company like Total Energy, for example, or BNP, for example. The thing is, when you actually took at a larger picture, these people, they are more from market research sides, because if you look at the global carbon energy consumptions of large company, IT is usually a good kid. People in IT do their job correctly. AI is generating a lot of concerns, so people want to understand what is happening and what we can do. But if you look at a bigger picture, that's usually not the number one things large companies will do to actually like make a difference on the green side. Some people are very, very, very involved. And it's true to say that for us, European, we are always like working with the European Commission on the legal regulation of all that. So it might come quicker for us in Europe than we expect. And actually in France, we already have laws. In Europe, we already have laws that we must give the data for compliance reporting. But it's not very, very, very exhaustive. So I guess it's a personal choice and depends who is the champion within your customer.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of kind of the process of building Pruna, like the founding team have got like very, very strong technical background, like also some strong academic roots. Like from your perspective on the go-to-market side, have you found that kind of building a go-to-market strategy, with a very technical team?
It was really interesting because we have 4 founders. 3 out of the 4 are really technical and have an academic background too. And by the way, it's worth saying that if we compare to other companies like engineering-driven companies, working with researchers is actually something even different in terms of mindset and how do you acculturate them to the business acumen to actually like monetize the product. To me, what was really interesting is that these people actually are super open-minded when it comes to business. And that's actually my very own personal pleasure, is that I find they have really put a lot of trust in me to whatever decision or recommendation I actually make when it comes to go-to-market strategies. Very open to explore, questioning a lot, always eager to help. And there is one thing where we do is actually to acculturate all the research people. So fun fact, I did a training. We do like a monthly training on business stuff for the researchers. And the very first session I held was how to do a customer call, like a discovery customer call. So they could reuse that to run user interviews. Then how to do product marketing. So how can I speak of papers, product marketing and all that. So yes, it is an exciting moment to work in such a configuration, I guess.
And are you kind of fully remote first, or how much is kind of local collaboration still important in kind of building a business?
So we are a fully remote company with 2 hubs, one in Paris, one in Munich. I'm personally based neither of these cities, and I guess it's not that important. I mean, it is like every 2 to 3 months I go and I gather with my teams for a couple of days to recharge my social batteries and to discuss things. But we will build a remote culture because let's face the truth, to attract talent, we can't only ask people to be there in Paris or in Munich, even though we have a very great talent pool. But ML research engineers in the performance and optimization area, that's a niche.
The
That
very
is
tight
super,
area,
so,
yeah.
super hard. And where big tech like NVIDIA, AMD, or Meta are also like chasing. So it's super hard for us all to do otherwise. When it comes to other go-to-market people, being honest, and if there is one VC listening to us or even founders, where you first hires, you go just from word of mouth, like knowing people you know in the past, people are recommending you. So it's usually not that important.
And in terms of kind of the next 12 months, like what is kind of the big core focus? Is it like from a go-to-market perspective? Is it kind of building the number of users, or are you kind of looking for some real key logos that you can kind of build some strong case studies off the back of?
Well, we just finished to actually found out our PMF, which is actually very great. And now we have 2 challenges. The first one is to build a repeatable process when it comes to sales, and also succeed on our onboarding. So we need like to put some playbook in place to ensure we don't face any churn on our very early customers. And the second one is obviously acquiring like key logos, bigger logos, or maybe to do a major upsell operation to prove that our business model is actually stable, and scalable at the same time. And in a 12-month silence, yes, that will be our 2 biggest challenges.
And how do you think about building the company from a like European perspective versus like the US and the rest of the world? Are you just focusing on the kind of local market at the moment, or are you kind of already operating in the US?
Well, being an open source means that you operate on the worldwide market from day one. And even though the local markets are really great for us, I mean, these are primary source of revenue, don't get me wrong, but you immediately go into the US because that's just because also the big players in AI, they're over there for us. So there is no like thousands of customers waiting elsewhere too at some point. So think US business development from day one. The only thing we didn't do yet is to really like operate locally on the US. We operate, we'll do the US operation from Europe. From my experience, I did that in my past experience, again, in my 0 to 1 million path. And it works well until roughly these thresholds. When you have at least 1 million or 2 in ARR build up, that's where you can actually decide to accelerate. Maybe, and usually there is a fundraising round coming up, and then you decide to double down on the go-to-market because you have the money to invest on local people like a head of sales or whatsoever to beef up your presence locally. And that's kind of the playbook European people used to repeat. You have these possibilities of having founders going locally also to expand the business themselves.
Yep.
I really don't know yet what the strategy will be for us. I've seen that a lot for us, but there is also one thing we should not miss here, which is really tied to our background, is that we are research based and research engineers, and right now the research world in the US is actually very concerned, and there is like people coming from the US in Europe due to Trump's policy. I'm not here to judge, that's just a fact.
Yeah.
So that's why also that might affect also our choice and how do we want to operate. We will do the how might be also impacted by such a macroeconomic context.
Yeah, and just kind of understanding all the factors. Okay, well, it's been great having you on today, Quentin. If people want to get in touch and discuss Pruna, like where do you live? Is it kind of email, LinkedIn, Twitter? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Why you tell them all? But I mean, classical website, LinkedIn. People can go onto the LinkedIn, DM me if they want any information. I'll be pleased to answer, obviously.
Great stuff. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you to everybody watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of AI People coming soon.